Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. My name is Lili Davoudian and I'm joined by TJ Banasik, my colleague in the Sovereign Cloud Security team. Today we're going to talk about the Better Together story between Azure Security Center and Azure Sentinel.
Lili, can you tell us more about what it means to be better together between these two products?
Sure. So we found that a lot of customers are using both Security Center and Azure Sentinel separately, but because of kind of the tight integrations between the two products, there are a lot of benefits from using those and thinking about the end-to-end security story, and that's what we want to highlight today.
So a lot of our customers are going down different paths of integration between these products in commercial. Can you tell us how this relates to the Azure government environment?
Yeah, great question. The features that we'll show today are available in Azure Government, and we'll have a demo at the end to show it in that space. So with that, I'm actually going to go ahead and get started and share some slides and talk a little bit about the threat detection challenges we're seeing today and how Security Center and Sentinel help us address them. So to get started, let's talk a little bit about the cloud security challenges that we're seeing today. Rapidly changing workloads is both a strength and a challenge of the cloud. On one hand, we see that end users are really empowered to do more than ever. But on the other, we want to make sure that the ever-changing services that people are using and are creating are up to your organization's security standards and that they're following best practices. We also see that no matter where you're running your workloads, attacks are getting more sophisticated. And finally, the number of security alerts and alerting systems is really outnumbering the number of administrators and security professionals with the necessary background and experience to make sure your environments are protected. Because of this, we really need end-to-end visibility into your security and compliance, but we find that staying up to date with latest attacks is a constant challenge, especially as we're constantly doing more with fewer resources. We also see that resources are specialized and they're interested in different parts of the kill chain or threat protection story. For example, we have service owners who are responsible for hardening the attack surface against threats. And then we have SOC analysts who are responsible for addressing threats that do occur. And we want to empower each of these personas with the right tools to act quickly and efficiently. So with that background, I want to talk about how our integrated threat protection suite really helps address these challenges. As I noted, the threat landscape is becoming more complex, and we're seeing an increase in the sophistication of attacks and wider attack surfaces. Security teams are struggling to manage this environment because they typically have multiple solutions that aren't integrated. What we need here is an intelligent, automated, and integrated security to close these gaps and give us the visibility and proactive response that we need. This is where Microsoft's extended detection and response tools come in. So we have Azure Sentinel, which is our cloud-native SIEM solution. It delivers intelligent security analytics for your entire enterprise. Sentinel ingests alerts from a variety of sources like Azure Defender and leverages built-in capabilities like Fusion to correlate alerts and data across a wide range of sources to create an incident or a notable event that allows your team to focus on what's important. Using Sentinel, you can easily connect to any of your security sources through our built-in connectors, and then take advantage of AI to correlate multiple low-fidelity signals across multiple sources to create a complete view of the kill chain and prioritize alert so you can accelerate your time to remediate. Microsoft XDR manifests itself in two tailored experiences. We have Azure Defender and M365 Defender. Microsoft 365 Defender helps protect emails, identities, endpoints, and applications. Azure Defender protects Azure environments and ensures that your cloud infrastructure resources are protected from common threats. We have protection for resource types directly available in the portal and have kind of at-a-glance visibility into which resources are protected and your alert status across these resources. With this combination of SIEM and XDR, you can experience kind of the breadth of resource coverage of Azure Sentinel and couple that with the depth of understanding that you get from a product like Azure Defender. And the goal here is really for your teams to spend less time setting up and maintaining systems and more time remediating and addressing alerts. So today we're going to focus on Azure Defender, and Azure Sentinel, and how these work together to address some of the cloud security challenges that we're seeing. So with that, let's talk a little bit about Azure Security Center. Azure Security Center helps you protect, detect, and respond to threats with increased visibility into and control over the security of your Azure resources. It provides integrated security monitoring and policy management across all of your subscriptions, helping detect threats that might go unnoticed and working across a really broad ecosystem of security solutions. Here you can see ASC has two pillars. We have the proactive security we provide through features like Secure Score and regulatory compliance. Secure Score is our single KPI. We leverage a out-of-the-box security policy to continuously monitor your cloud environment and surface recommendations to address misconfigurations and help you harden your attack surface and prevent against threats. Given the rapidly changing workloads we're seeing today, this really gives you the needed instant visibility to understand your cloud security posture while providing simple steps for remediation, all from the same pane of glass. And then you have our more advanced threat protection features, which is commonly referred to as Azure Defender. This is the threat protection that we provide after you've hardened your attack surface in case we still see threats. And we provide coverage across many different resource types and then surface alerts if we detect attempts to compromise your system. We'll jump into a demo, but this is a kind of at-a-glance view of the Azure Defender dashboard. The dashboard provides a really easy to understand view of your security alerts with insights into attempts to compromise your system and recommendations to avoid similar alerts in the future. On the security alerts dashboard, we make sure that every alert has a severity, which helps you prioritize. And we also provide investigation and response all from the same pane of glass. So with that refresher on Security Center, let's jump into Azure Sentinel. Azure Sentinel is our cloud-native solution that helps correlate security logs and signals from sources across apps, services, infrastructure, and more. It comes with a number of connectors for Microsoft solutions that are out of the box and that give real-time integration. So for example, we have a service-to-service integration with Security Center, and you can stream alerts from Azure Defender directly into Sentinel. Once the data flows into Sentinel, we leverage a feature called Fusion that has kind of scalable machine learning algorithms that correlates many low fidelity alerts and events across multiple products into high fidelity and actionable insights. So even though you're bringing this data together from a lot of different sources, Sentinel has that ability to look through the noise and pull out the high fidelity incidents that your teams need to focus on. And when we think about the cloud security challenges that we started the presentation with, this is really key for giving you not only the visibility that you need, but also to help you prioritize where your security team should focus, given that we're consistently doing more with fewer resources here. So to close, what we get when we put these two products together is a integrated end-to-end detection, investigation, and response platform for protecting our cloud workloads. With Security Center, we get visibility into our cloud environment, and we can address recommendations that help us harden our attack surface. Azure Defender also provides visibility where we do see threats or attempts to compromise our system. From here, we can stream these alerts to Sentinel for further investigation and threat hunting. And we have automated responses in Sentinel that help us easily mitigate risks and focus on what's important. So with that intro, TJ, do you think you could show us what this looks like in the Azure portal?
Building at a higher level to say we can understand how these things come together, but bringing it down into a demonstration at the telemetry and the configuration level to see what it looks like when we start to bring these products together and tell that better together story. So when we come in, you'll notice that I'm in the commercial portal with Azure Sentinel. And what I'd like to walk you guys through is building the sample detection, what it looks like when we start to visualize this data. And then once we kind of look at the use case, flushing out into Security Center to understand how you could action that type of event. So the first thing I do is come into Azure Sentinel and check workbooks. You'll notice that we have built-in content around Security Center and Defender. This is the ASC Compliance and Protection Workbook. So what a workbook will do in Sentinel is visualize your login and telemetry to give you an idea of security insights and different automations and responses and alerting that you could have when you bring these together. So this is something that's pre-built out of the box, which is nice because it gives you the ability to see what's going on in your environment without having to do so from raw telemetry. So the first thing I'm doing is pulling down to get an idea of, what type of data is being sent from Security Center into Sentinel. So we've got a collection of different data that's being pulled for insights. So our use case is going to be evaluating a vulnerable asset that is being attacked by a threat. So we're going into endpoint protection. When we come into here, this is starting to show us different virtual machines that we have in Azure with the status of if they are or are not protected. And when we start to work through these types of visualizations, we understand what the most vulnerable machines are and can start to get an idea of what they would look like over the last 90 days and how much telemetry that we have behind it. So what I'd like to do is pivot into Sentinel to start building out the query. And first, I'm going to show you guys this in the commercial environment, and then show you how it's the same user experience in the government environment and how we can configure an alert to pick up this type of data. So the first thing I'll do is come into Azure Sentinel under logs. And what I'm going to do is create a query around protection status. So what this is doing is looking to see in that telemetry from Security Center, which machines have antivirus endpoint detection agents on them and which ones don't. So this query is showing a count of assets. So 6 of my assets are healthy and have what we want. The other 6 are either unknown, out of date, or don't have protection. So that's something that we would care about. We go into our second query, looking at a similar cut of data, but this time we're showing a proportion of which machines are involved with these detections. What I did was throw in a line to say, only tell me about the ones that don't have real-time protection. So we're starting to see a story of admin machines, domain controllers, that's an edge device on the perimeter, victim PC, but different machines that are reporting different levels of coverage. Anything that comes up in here is something that I care about that doesn't have a full real-time protection profile when it's checking in. So we can show this story over time with a quick visualization. The way this telemetry works is once an hour, so 24 times a day, machines will check in the Security Center and report if they're healthy or not, the status of their endpoint protection agents. So machines that are coming in here with 24 detections a day, you can see victim PC and domain controllers. Those are unprotected machines. Whereas this admin machine is healthy some of the time, but then seemed to have an issue on May 14th and 15th. This is telling us our win story as far as what this telemetry looks like over time. So that's another component of better together. I don't just want to know if I'm covered or if I'm not. I want to see what that looks like over time, and it allows me to make decisions and actionable insights. So what this one does is now taking the telemetry from Azure Sentinel around security alerting. So what it's saying is I have 3 different computer IDs that are currently being attacked. So that would be something I care about, but if it's a vulnerable asset that's being attacked, something without endpoint protection, that would be a higher severity and more along the lines of something that I'd want to respond to immediately. So what I do is I join the data that you saw in the first queries from Security Center with the security alerting in Sentinel. So what it's now showing me is I have vulnerable assets that are being attacked, and you can see this victim PC is being attacked the most frequently out of the 4 vulnerable machines that we looked at. So the last query is showing us the fusion story and what we're putting together for this. So it's the same query. We're just rendering by provider name and putting it into a pie chart. So in this use case, we're actually pulling telemetry from a multitude of sources. Lili talked about that fusion and how Azure Sentinel will coalesce with Security Center with different points of telemetry to tell that story. So you can see we have a little bit of signal from Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Security Center, Warm Path, and Anti-Malware are all telemetry points coming from Security Center and Defender. We're also mixing in Fusion with Azure Sentinel to put together conditions and threat intelligence from our Mystic team. So we're getting to the point to where we have what we like to say an actionable alert. We're interested in this data. So what I'm going to do is pivot over to our Gov instance. You'll see that the user experience is very similar in what you'll see here in our Gov environment as far as parity with GA features. I'm going to take this exact same query. I'm going to run that. So we'll pivot into our government environment, and you'll see Azure Sentinel has feature parity with GA offerings with the same experience. We're taking the query that we built, looking for a vulnerable asset by protection status in Security Center and assets that are being attacked, reported by Azure Sentinel. You'll see in our government environment, we're not actively being attacked. So what we want to do is create an alert to let us know when we do have a vulnerable asset being attacked. I'll come over here to create a Sentinel alert. And we will name it vulnerable asset attacks. We could put tactics from the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Execution is one I can think of. I'd say being attacked may put us in medium depending on what it is, but a vulnerable or critical asset being attacked would raise the severity of that. We'll go into our rule logic, and what we can do is test this with artificial intelligence and machine learning to understand how many times this is going to trigger within a period of time. That way, if there's a very high count, we can say, let's tune it out so our SOC team doesn't get false positives. Currently, this environment isn't being attacked, so it's the optimal state. I'm going to look back 6 hours so I don't fall on my time bridge. I care about anything that's going to happen greater than 0. I'm not going to suppress. I'll go into incident settings, which I'm confident in the way they're laid out. These are my automations. So if I have a vulnerable asset being attacked, I can either wait for a human analyst to respond to it, or I can put a lot of different playbooks around this. So if I detect this condition in my government environment, I automatically want to block the user. I want to block the IP address at the firewall. I want to get incident enrichment. I want to isolate the agent if it does have a Defender for Endpoint, open a ticket in Jira, and post a message to my monitoring team. So 6 different automations within SOAR are going to be triggered anytime this environment is seen in the wild. When we're happy with it, we will create. And that's going to create an analytic rule in Azure Sentinel. What I'll do is come over to analytics. Good with that not being saved, and we'll just type vuln. And now we can see that we have an alert that is ready to go, firing off with those 6 automations anytime that we see that use case of a vulnerable asset being attacked. The next question is, what do we do to respond to this? So what I want to do is go over to Security Center. Now, anything that we show you in the GUI, we can automate within SOAR, but oftentimes it's a little bit more helpful to show you what it looks like in the GUI. What we recommend is if you find a repeatable task, go and automate it with playbooks in our orchestration just to save that time and augment main power and resources. You can see we're in our Gov instance of Security Center. We're going to go to recommendations. So our use case was vulnerable assets that are being attacked. So what I'm going to do is go to security recommendations. You see we get a secure score in the environment. A lot of these things that Lili talked about, we have recommendations on status of assets, and what we can do. What recommendations does is tells us the things that we need to change in our environment to harden it out. Being that Security Center is letting us know we have vulnerable assets and Sentinel is detecting attacks, we probably want to go in and mitigate these. So I'm searching endpoint, and you'll see there's a good variety of different controls around endpoint protection. You can see that when we do remediate this, it'll increase our secure score, ideally to get us up to 100%. Install endpoint protection on our virtual machines. That's what our use case was designed to do. So right here, I have a single-click remediation. You can see our admin machine, our 2 victim machines that were reported in the use case. By clicking install on the VMs, it's automatically going to install our endpoint agent to those machines, and you'll no longer see them as vulnerable. And we can monitor that over time with Azure Sentinel to ensure that it is deployed and those machines are staying healthy. So that brings us to the completion of the demo. Definitely look forward to working with the community and talking about what this story looks like in government. Interested to hear back from everyone in the community as far as how is this Better Together story helping with your security operations teams and your GRC teams? What can we do from a product-based perspective in enhancing this story and taking it to the next level?
Thanks, TJ, for that demo. I think it was an awesome explanation of some of the integrated story between Security Center and Sentinel. And as TJ noted, we're excited to hear how you use these products together and to get your feedback.